get closer to children, families, and teachers, Joy left Sage to become the first professional director of the religious school at Temple Beth Am in Margate, and later became the director of the congregational education programs at Beit Shirah congregation for 11 years and Temple Beth Am for 13 years, both in South Dade. And upon returning to Sage, Joy is leading the early childhood education directors and congregational directors professional networks and creating professional development opportunities geared towards the needs of directors and teachers. She is particularly proud of the work Sage is doing in developing and running the Jewish Resource Specialist Initiative, a 3-year pilot program generously funded by the Greater Miami Jewish Federation and embedded in 5 early childhood education centers. Our topic today is women in Jewish leadership and the changing language of prayer. And it's my great pleasure to give you Joy in person, and I think in hearing her.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Eileen. It's great to see you. And what's also nice is I see many people that I know, Nadine and Alice and Carol. And am I missing? Oh my gosh, it's fantastic, fantastic. So as Eileen was reading all that bio stuff, I was thinking, oh no, I'm just really a religious school teacher. And I got my education, my master's in Jewish ed, thinking that no matter how my life turned out, I would always be teaching in a religious school. And so that's who I am, a teacher. So this is not going to be a lecture, but I ask questions, comments. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I grew up loving to go to Shabbat services. They were led by a very dynamic education director. Singing was fun. I felt spiritual, and I felt that communal warmth, and I totally enjoyed it. And that was even when I did not understand the Hebrew. So it was just more of this wonderful feeling. So it's always intrigued me, prayer and prayer language. And as my Hebrew improved, then I really got to see the nuances and started saying, oh, I'm not sure I like this. I'm not sure I like that. So I have a few questions, and I want you to answer by do you see on your screen your reactions? So you can do a thumbs up or you can raise your hand if you don't want to do it via Zoom. I have a couple of questions for you. So here we go. Oh, and there's Marcia. If you know of Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, and or Bella Abzug, raise your hand, please. All right. If you remember hearing the news when some of the first female rabbis were ordained, raise your hand. And I want you to think a minute for those of you who raised your hands. Do you remember how you felt about it? So just go there for a minute. Okay. And then I want you all to think about a time, either within your congregation, within a Jewish communal organization that you were active or still are active. Remember a time when you felt recognized, included, or listened to in a different kind of way. Yes, yes. And I just want to share with you that my experience, when I knew I had experienced something totally, totally different, was when I was at Camp Ramah, and I was invited, I was asked to read Torah at a Shabbat morning service. When I was a teen, it was the summer after 10th grade. And I went, oh my, I've never read Torah before. Oh my God, I felt like I was part of the club. So I have always felt, without doing any research, but it's been a gut feeling of mine, that the women in the rabbinate and women in the women's liberation movement really changed the language of Jewish prayer in particular. And they had a major impact, have had and continue to have a major impact on all aspects of Judaism. So, quiz. Who knows the first woman who was ordained as a rabbi? Alice, you can unmute.
It was Sally Presand.
Ah, oh my gosh. Yes, she was
1972.
Yes.
From Hebrew Union College. She was the first Reform rabbi.
Right. And we have to qualify that by saying she was the first female rabbi to be ordained by the Reform movement here in the United States, because back in 1935 in Berlin, Regina Jonas was ordained by the Reform movement. So she's actually the second, but we can say she's the first here. Regina Jonas ended up in Theresienstadt and died there. And she has a great, amazing legacy. And it's really a shame that people don't know her. I didn't know of her until quite recently. Okay, so that was in 1972, Sally Presand. Who's our next rabbi? Or the first rabbi to be ordained by the Reconstructionist movement? She's written, I'm going to give you a hint. She's written several wonderful children's books about God, about Jewish ritual. Okay, I know I'm going to say this name and she's going to be familiar. Sandy Eisenberg Sasso was ordained 2 years later by the Reconstructionist movement in 1974. So, the conservative movement, who was the first ordained rabbi? Okay, anybody want to guess? Rabbi
Amy Iberg?
Yes, who said that?
Liz.
Yes, fantastic. And
but I had also heard that it was Shoshana, the daughter of, I don't know if it was Heschel or Kaplan or.
Oh, Susanna Heschel, or
Yeah,
Mordechai Kaplan in the Reconstructionist movement. His daughter was the first woman to become a bat mitzvah.
Maybe that's what it was, maybe.
Yes. Now, there was a woman before Amy Eilberg, and
Regina Jonas in 1935, but that was in Germany.
Right. So there was another rabbi, and hold on a minute, I have to get some more juice in my computer. Okay, so Amy Eilberg, before she was ordained, we were both at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York together. There was a woman named Lynn Gottlieb. She actually went through the entire learning program for people who were becoming rabbis, but she was not allowed to be ordained. It was only after they finally made concessions that Amy Eilberg was ordained, then Lynn was ordained after she had completed the entire program. And that was 11 years later. Now, there actually are women in the Orthodox world who are ordained. And does anybody know a name of any person or the first person? And her title is Rabbah.
Sarah Hurwitz.
Yes, Eileen, yes.
Yeah, she spoke here a few years ago. We had her for a weekend, Joyce. She was wonderful.
Oh,
I
I
spent a lot
know.
of time with her, yeah.
Oh, I know. She's fabulous. She was ordained by Rabbi Avi Weiss.
Weiss, yeah.
So
Oh.
we know that between the feminist movement and women being ordained, they have had a major impact on Judaism. And I want to share something that Rabbi Amy Eilberg wrote. And here it is. Women are less concerned about being on top and more concerned with attending to the needs of other people. And that reminded me of a book. Raise your hand if you read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay, love that book. Oh my gosh. What's his name? Oh gosh.
Gray, John Gray?
Yes, John
I don't know.
Gray.
I remember.
Yes, who said that? Liz. Oh my God, John Gray, doctor, he did research on the
Right.
communication styles of men and women, the language, the words that they used, the reasons why they communicated, and found that there were total differences in how women communicate. So clearly, when women came into the rabbinate, what kinds of things did they start bringing? What kind of language did they start bringing into their congregations? What have your experiences been?
Gender free.
Yes, and especially either gender neutral or all gender language regarding God. So, and we know that there are over 50 words that are used in Hebrew for God, and many of them, like Shekhinah, is feminine. So we do have in Hebrew and in prayer feminine words for God, but clearly they aren't used all that often. So we see that either gender neutral or more of the feminine aspect of God within our liturgy. Anything else that you've detected? How about life cycle and rituals? Anybody have a sense of how women have impacted Jewish life cycles? Yes, Marcia.
A lot of them are now much more family centric, much more human centric, a lot of social action programs within the congregational setting that wasn't there years ago. So there's a lot more emphasis on people's needs and family needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure that you've all experienced this. What about Midrashim? Raise your hand if you've read The Red Tent. Right. One of the most popular books that is a modern midrash, many midrashim on our matriarchs. Absolutely beautiful. So it's women who are now thinking about the stories of the women in Torah and what was happening. Were they totally behind the scenes with no face, no voice? And that is something that is so powerful now. that we can enjoy. So I want to give you some examples, and now I'm going to share my screen. And the first one is, I think, and it is because I read it, the most popular and well-known poem that Merle Feld has written. Merle Feld is a published poet, award-winning playwright, peace activist, and educator. And since 2005, Merle has served as founding director of the Alban Rabbinic Writing Institute, guiding rabbinical students and rabbis from all denominations to develop and explore their own spiritual lives and to serve more effectively as spiritual leaders. So here we go. Oh. It was here. Hold on a second. Let me exit this. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, here it is. And now I'm going to try to share my screen. Here we go. Sorry, I have so many documents that I wanted to share with you that they didn't all show up. So here, this is Merle Feld. We all stood together. And I remember the first time I read it and the impact that it had. And I want you to pay particular attention to the last few words. So here it goes. My brother and I were at Sinai. He kept a journal of what he saw, of what he heard, of what it all meant to him. I wish I had such a record of what happened to me there. It seems like every time I want to write, I can't. I'm always holding a baby, one of my own or one for a friend, always holding a baby, so my hands are never free to write things down. And then, as time passes, the particulars, the hard data, the who, what, when, where, why slip away from me. And all I'm left with is the feeling. But feelings are just sounds, the vowel barking of a mute. My brother is so sure of what he heard. After all, he's got a record of it, consonant after consonant after consonant. So, how many of you have heard this before? No? What do you think? I'd love your reactions. So we were all at Sinai. What happened at Mount Sinai? What happened at Mount Sinai?
We received the Torah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it says in the text, men, women, children, everyone was there in the same place, the base of Mount Sinai. And how does this woman feel about her experience at Sinai?
It was documented by men.
Yes.
No woman's voice in the documentation.
Yes, yes. I'm going to stop my share for a minute. Yes. And that's been a a perception, and it's not only a perception, it is true in so many instances in our Torah and biblical narratives. Our women have no voices. And that is why we need to create midrashim when there is the space open to do that. And in other instances, we must bring women's voices who are current, who we have their writing with us. We need to make their voices heard. And Merlefeld, I encourage you to read her poetry. She's really brilliant and extremely, extremely spiritual in a very profound and personal way. And she's able to express it so that we can all understand it. So now I'm going to share my screen again. And
you said to look at the last few words.
yes, yes, the last stanzas. Yep.
Okay. It seems the men have the consonants, the hard sounds. They have the facts of it. While the women, she says, have the vowels, the softer, the feelings of it.
Yes.
So it's absorbed differently. It's reported differently.
Right. And thank you so much, Linda. I don't know. I think most of us would probably agree. Text without feeling is very far removed from who we are. And I think that it requires both. Sinai and her poem reminds us that both sounds are critical. We need to know what happened. We need to know the facts, the data, but we need to have that softness, that feeling, the reasons why, the meaning. If there's no meaning and no personal feeling connected to it, it's dry, it's just out there. Thank you, Linda. Anybody else want to comment? Okay, I'm going to show you now Marcia Falk. And here we go. So Marcia Falk is another favorite of mine. When her book first came out, the Book of Blessings, can everybody see it? Yes, the Book of Blessings, and it came out way back in 1996. When it came out, everyone spoke about this as new liturgy. And she would say, no, I'm a poetess. And I am simply rewriting this prayer liturgy in a way that makes sense to me. It makes sense to my theology, to the way I think about God, the way I connect. And these are my words. Lately, I am hearing people refer to her, they continue to refer to her as a liturgist. So the blessing before a meal. What is the one blessing? And it's usually when we have bread. So that first, that blessing before the meal is hamotzi, right? So let's all say it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. So this is the blessing formula. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. 6 formula words, and they mean, blessed are you, our God, King of the universe. And let's see how she changes that. So here is Marcia Falk's blessing before the meal. Okay. Nivarech et ein hachayim hamotzia lechem min haaretz. Let us bless the source of life that brings forth bread from the earth. Do you see the difference here? And what do you think about that difference? Have you seen this before? Let us nivarech. So first of all, Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, our God. It's almost like I'm saying it by myself. What happens when she turns that Baruch into nivarech? It's the same root word, but it's a different construct. Nivarech, let us bless. In that first word, she's creating community, something that women do. We look to make connections. We look to create relationships. We want to bring people in. This is a part of her theology. Now, how does she refer to God? In our blessing formula, it's Melech HaOlam, the King of the universe. And what are her words? What is her metaphor? Ein HaChayim. So the Hebrew, it means like the fountain, the source of life. So we have a total difference. We have this male hierarchy, the king of the universe, and God rules everything. And now we have this different metaphor calling God the source of life, the source of everything. Big difference. And then that last part, hamotziah lechem min haaretz. I'm sure that those of you who know Hebrew can appreciate the fact that this is a feminine form, hamotziah, the bringer, the one who brings bread from the earth, but it's in feminine form. And in Hebrew, because it's gendered, you have to be very intentional about how you're using your words, your adjectives, your nouns. So why do you think, or what is the power, or not so, of her changing hamotzi lechem min haaretz? It's the same words, that brings forth bread from the earth. Why do you think it was important for her to change that to a feminine form? Hamotziah. Anybody, unmute yourself. There's no right or wrong answers.
Because she's a feminist.
Because she's a feminist. Why else?
She wants women to be inclusive, to feel more a part of the prayer.
Absolutely. And in this context, the blessing before the meal, this is what we say before we eat. And what is the usual relationship of women with food?
They're the cooks.
We're the cooks.
We prepare it.
We are the preparers. We are the providers. This bread probably wouldn't get to our table if we hadn't prepared it. So that's a possible reading also, that women have a lot to do with food, and food as an expression of nurturing and creating community.
And it makes, to me, it makes it more active. It's an active thing of bringing the food to the table. when you say it the way you say the hamotzi, it's like it came from above and got put on the table magically. Magically.
Yes,
Which is how a lot of people think food gets on the table, but
right. There's a joke that you ask little kids, where does challah come from? And they say Publix. So, right. Eileen, thank you for bringing that up, because the bracha formula, the blessing formula, makes it seem, like you said, God on high. And this starts with nivarech, let us bless. We have something to do with providing food. God is the ultimate provider. The food is there, but we have a role in making it sure it gets to people. So I just love what she does. Now,
Joy,
in
can I ask you
Hebrew-
something?
Yes, Carol.
So I feel a certain tension here because recognizing that God is the ultimate provider, by women blessing ourselves, I feel that lacks in humility. And while I feel very comfortable in blessing God, not so much blessing myself, because it seems out of place, I guess, lacking in the kind of humility that I think brings out the best in ourselves. So I feel a real tension here and discomfort with using this language.
Right.
I just want to put it out there to see how you feel about that.
It's funny. So first of all, thank you for reading this and sharing your feelings. For me, this seems totally inclusive. Nivarech is not feminine or masculine. It's let us bless the source of life, neither feminine or masculine. And we can see, hey, source of life. It's gendered in every way that we define gender in that spectrum. Hamotzi'ah lechem min haaretz. Now, if I wanted to critique this, the one word that would get me is hamotziah, because that is feminine. And we know that in this amazing world that we live in, there are a lot of men, they love cooking. My brother-in-law, he's the cook in the family. And it's not just a woman's role to prepare food. So if I were going to write this now in this day and age, I might want to change that. But I see nivarech et ein hachayim as an action that we're all encouraged to do. But I hear you, and that's why she doesn't consider it liturgy. She doesn't want to impose her theology on everyone else. Yes, thank you. So blessing after the meal is called Birkat Hamazon, and the traditional Birkat Hamazon is 4 long paragraphs, and each paragraph is thematic. And I have to think about what they are. So the first one is, thank you, God, for providing. Another one is, thank you for the land of Israel specifically, and the land that we are able to get our food from. And one is the rebuilding of Jerusalem, so we can all celebrate our nourishment and our fulfillment together. And the other one, the last concept, is peace. And certainly it's very hard to have peace if we have hungry stomachs, and we know what famine all over the world does, politically in every which way. So here she has 3 short statements. I'll read the English first. This is Birkat Hamazon, the blessing after the meal. Let us acknowledge the source of life, source of all nourishment. May we protect the bountiful earth that it may continue to sustain us, and let us seek sustenance for all who dwell in the world. Nodel ein hachayim hazana et hakol, al haaretz hatova v'harchava nishmorna v'hi tekaimenu. Univakesh mazon lahasbia bo kol yoshvei tevel. What do you think? What is she doing here? Besides shortening Birkat Hamazon to 3 simple phrases, which many of us can say less is more.
I grew up singing the Birkat Hamazon to the point where it's like a piece ingrained in my brain.
Right.
To be able to change it to 3 paragraphs, I don't think I could ever learn to do that.
Right.
I think that children who are in, religious schools and in camp situations, there's been a very strong tradition of the after breakfast, lunch, and dinner birkat, and I don't know. I mean, this is probably something that could be said at a women's seder or at other traditional moments where you've got women, who are trying to not trying to change, but willing to change a little bit to just change the philosophy of it. But some things you just want to keep.
Right. And
you don't want to let them go.
Absolutely. Look, this is the whole concept between fixed and spontaneous prayer. And the rabbis debated it. What should we do? And they could recognize the importance of both. So the fixed prayer is definitely there. And again, I just want to point out her language. May we protect the bountiful earth, and may it continue to sustain us. I feel that she's adding a level of our own part in providing food. May we protect. It's on us. God created this amazing world. But I don't think any place in the traditional Birkat Hamazon do we talk about our part explicitly.
She made it a partnership. She made this a partnership between us and who the source of life. Then there's us, and then there's the bountiful earth, and then there's the rest of the world who needs us to help survive. I mean, she's really made a global partnership.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what is implied, because there are commentaries on all of our prayers, Birkat Hamazon, we know that that's implied. We have beautiful midrashim about human beings being responsible and taking care of our earth. This is now explicit, so it's very different. Oh, I have so many things to share, and I see that 15 minutes, we're in that zone. So I just want to share 2 more things to give you examples of modern prayers. So I'm going to share my screen. Do you see it? Protecting life? No. Okay, so now let me do it again. Here we go. Okay. This is a prayer that has been written recently, actually in the Greater Pittsburgh Rabbinic Association. These are 2 rabbis from Pittsburgh, and here is their prayer that they have written for receiving the COVID vaccine. And they explain, the first blessing begins with the words Asher Yatzar, And that is the morning blessing that we say actually every time we go to the bathroom. And it is recognizing God as a healer. It's recognizing the miracles of our body and the potential for our body to heal itself. So here's their prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, rofei kol basar, umafli la'asot bidei kol yoshvei tevel. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who heals all flesh, working wondrously through human hands. And then to be recited when you get your first dose, you say Shehechianu. Thank you, God, for bringing us to this day. So here's a new blessing. And they are following the blessing formula, but they've created a blessing for something modern that is not found in our Talmudic pages. Something specific to COVID-19, that's the inspiration for it. The amazing feat of developing a vaccine in such a short amount of times, how wondrous that is, and hence their blessing. I think it's very, very beautiful. And then I want to show you one more thing. Oh. Okay, one more last thing. Okay. I've often thought about this. We have one of the 10 commandments, Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha, honor your father and mother. And what happens when and if you do not have a mother or a father who is nurturing and who is building you up? What happens if you live in an abusive situation and you're not given that unconditional love and support? And now you're in the situation where you are caring for your elderly parent or parents. And I've always wondered, because I have a friend who had a father who was abusive in many ways. And I always wonder, how can you honor your parents when they behave this way? And then how can you take care of them? It's the ultimate way of showing honor. But here is a blessing, and it's written by Karen Ehrlichman. God, source of boundless compassion, please give me the strength to care for this parent in their suffering. Help me to feel your protection as I tend to their decline. May I offer kindness and sustenance to them while honoring my own heart. Infinite mystery, remind me in ways I can feel and recognize that boundaries and taking breaks are also expressions of holiness. Grant me space within and outside myself to breathe. May I see them and myself through your loving eyes. Blessed are you, the one who loves unconditionally. And I want to point out that there's a great website called Ritual Well. And there's so many rituals. Oh, we could go on and on. So imagine if the Talmudic rabbis were women, what blessings would we have that are not in our canon of blessings? Okay, I can name a few. First, when a girl has her first period, blessing time, right? Giving birth to a child, blessing time. And now, in this very exciting era, we have women and we have men who are writing beautiful blessings and creating rituals that are helping us make meaning, find comfort in the beauty and the craziness of our lives. So anyway, that in a nutshell is how women have impacted our prayer language and every aspect of Judaism. And I'm open for questions or comments.
Thank you, Joy. And I'm reminded from Fiddler on the Roof, when they go to the rabbi and they say, Rabbi, do you have a blessing for the czar?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
bless the czar and may he stay far away from us.
Perfect. Absolutely.
So you
Perfect.
adapt to the times.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Liz.
There's this beautiful tradition in Eastern European culture of women writing Tehilot, which are these prayers that the women said for things like exactly like what Joy was talking about, like a first tooth, or blessing over like when you take a bit of challah. And it was just something that was like part of the ritual, exactly like what Joy was saying, that was started and carried on by the women.
Right. So, Liz, this is exactly what we want to do. There are women's voices, but they've been stifled, they've been buried. And there is a need to bring those voices to the fore because it was women writing these beautiful blessings and kavanot, these written intentions of purpose and meaning. Didn't make it into the canon of blessings that were written by male rabbis. And we are uncovering them and honoring these beautiful writings. Thank you for mentioning that. That's true. Yes.
Joy, you are the most amazing teacher. Oh my God, I realize how much I miss you now. 54 years ago, this Shabbat, I was bat mitzvah on Shabbat morning, and most of the synagogue walked out, and it never happened again. So it was 1967. So to hear you really dig deep down into how far we've come was so, so meaningful. So thank you,
Oh,
and thank you again.
thank you, everyone. Hi, Fran. Oh, thank you so much, Eileen, for inviting me, and Amy, and this amazing group of women. And if I leave you with anything, it is the next time you're in a prayer setting, pay special attention to the language. Does it feel right to you? How would you change it to make it more meaningful and to connect? And enjoy the journey that you're all on. Kol hakavod to the work that you do. Thank you.
Very often I do change the words when I'm in synagogue and it doesn't fit me, so I change it to fit me. I think a number of people, Joy, had asked if they could get the slides that you had shown. So if you can get them to Amy, and
Amy.
we'll get them out to people.
I will. And I'm the kind of person that I don't look at the chat at all. Oh gosh. Rona, The Sacred Calling, 4 Decades of Women in the Rabbinate. Yes, this is a new book that just came out. Absolutely. So many rabbis have written so many things. So thank you. I will share.
This is a wonderful course, Joy, you should be teaching, like through Sage, because this has opened so many eyes. Don't let it end here with this little group. Take this further. I think you would get a great following for women to not only learn about it, but to begin to write prayers.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Marcia.
Keep up
Oh,
the good work.
okay.
One
Thank
year,
you.
one year, the temple that I was affiliated with changed the Avinu Malkeinu during the high holidays to our parent, whatever it was.
Yes.
And it just, so much dissonance, like the person was saying before, that some of these fixed prayers have kind of gotten ingrained. And when they're not chanted the way we have always heard them, that in and of itself creates a dissonance. Now, to have the poetry on the opposite page in an interpretive way is one thing, but to change, a classic prayer like the Avinu Malkeinu. So what I think they do now, they don't translate it. They just leave it in the Hebrew, hoping that people don't know what it means.
Yes. Yes.
Can you imagine trying to get people used to the feminine part when they can't even adjust to changing from the Ashkenazi pronunciation to the Sephardic?
Right. It's not easy for sure, but there are a lot of ways. I didn't know who the speaker was before, but as she stated, there are so many ways to put this insert this so that everybody can find meaning in the language. Yes. And I know you have announcements, so.
Joy, can I just ask you something? Is there a site you can, is there a site that you can direct me to that would actually translate the Hebrew writing into like a Hebrew phonetics so I can recite a prayer? Some of it did have it in phonetics, but the blessings over the food were just in Hebrew and in English.
Yes, I believe, yes, in Marcia Falk's book, there are transliterations. So, and it's beautiful.
Marcia Falk's book?
Yes, and I'll write this. I'll send all of this to Amy with all of the references and the website Ritual Well. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Okay.
Thank
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Amy. Good job.
Don't leave, you guys. We have announcements.
Okay.
So.
Are people still on?
Where's Amy?
I don't know. I think we lost her.
She's still there. Oh, there she is.
I think
okay.
she's connecting.
Yeah, it dropped. She's back.
Hi, I'm back. I don't know what happened. My computer's plugged in. It just
you're on twice now.
turned off. Oh, I am. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm going to just do a quick intro but before I do that, Joy, this was really, really beautiful. And it's such a pleasure to get to learn with you and from you. Thank you so much for leading this session for us today. I look forward to getting to know you better and hopefully working with you again in the future. I'm going to introduce Liza Benkovich, who is one of our board officers, who's going to just say a few things, and then I'm going to close at the very end. I just have a couple updates. Thanks. Take it away, Liza.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, Amy. Thank you, Joy, again, for leading this beautiful Rosh Chodesh. I've learned a lot from the prayers and the perspective and the meaning behind it. I've been looking at all the books that you've shared. So Joy's on it, but if she came back on the call, then she'll hear this. If not, then someone can tell her. So we're really excited to be in our 100th year as the National Council of Jewish Women of Greater Miami chapter. For 100 years, we've been striving for social justice by improving the lives of women, children, and families, and by safeguarding their individual rights and freedoms based on our own Jewish values. So it is through your commitment and your continued support that we're able to do this meaningful and impactful work. Thank you to those who have already given a gift to support our work. If you haven't yet, please consider a gift of any amount to support our Centennial campaign, which help us launch into the next 100 years of doing this meaningful work. Like I said, any amount helps. Amy has added a donation link in the chat, or you can mail a check to the address in the chat. Thank you again, and I'm turning it over to Amy, who will briefly talk about our upcoming program.
So I was hoping to share my screen with you.
Amy, the floor is yours.
I was hoping to share my screen with you, and I didn't share anything in the chat because I got cut off, but it's ncjwmiami.org/centennial-campaign, where you can make a contribution of any amount. So thank you so much again to everyone who's already contributed to our centennial. And if who hasn't yet, consider it. That would be really, really helpful. And our next Rosh Chodesh program is on February 10th. Rabbi Efrat Zahn Zohar will be leading that one, also at 12 noon on a Wednesday, February 10th. But in between, before that happens, our Truth Tellers program, it's Stories of Justice, will be on February 2nd in the evening at 7 p.m. And that's a Tuesday evening. And Liz Singer, who's, I can't tell if she's still on the call or not. Liz, are you on the call still?
I'm here.
Do you want to do just a quick update about what that program is about? I'm really excited about it.
Thanks. So this session perfectly dovetailed into what the next Truth Tellers is going to be. So we are talking about feminism in Israel and the different nuances and the different movements that are taking place in Israel, and the very exciting way that Israel and the women in Israel are taking tradition and patriarchy and adapting it for the modern day and making it relevant to them. So we are going to be talking about feminism in Israel, how it's the same, how it's different, and the different organizations that are pushing for change. That's February 2nd.
Fantastic. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you,
What
Liza.
time is that on February 2nd?
7 p.m.
Thank you.
And that one usually lasts a little, like about an hour to an hour and a half. That one usually might go over a little over an hour. Great. Wonderful. Well, wishing everyone a happy, healthy, safe new year. And we hope to see you next month. Thank you, Liza, for adding that. For Rosh Chodesh with Rabbi Zahn Zohar, and on February 2nd for Truth Tellers.
I want to say something.
Wishing everyone well. Thank you.
Amy?
Yes.
Can I just say something? The Kendall section, we're collecting canned items to give to some things and food and snacks to Casa Valentina. The girls have really been, in their homes, not able to get out. And also we're trying just to give them some fun things to eat. And a food bank is coming to pick it up. You all live on Miami Beach. We live in the South End, but they'll be dropping it off at my house. Mindy Finkelman, if you're interested, you can reach out to Amy and she'll give you my address, or Susan Malka, who lives in Pinecrest. So we're just trying to do little things. It's very hard, because of all that's going on. But thank you for all that you do, Greater Miami. And we're in the process of talking to Amy, possibly doing something with Greater Miami. We love your section and all of you.
And we love you. So we're looking forward to partnering with you on future, on more programs. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And we can also support Casa Valentina. Thank you.
Yes, and if you want to drop off, I'm sure you could drop off on Miami Beach in Amy's office, and if we'll pick it up. So thank you all. All right.
Thank you, Mindy. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Take care. Bye-bye.